Hey, what's up, everybody? Kendall here with Double Dare Your Money associated with the Wealthy Legacy Journey. I gotta figure out how to do the intro a little bit better. But anyways, Double Dare Your Money, and I've got some really good Double Dare Your Money updates. I'm very excited to kind of tell you guys some of the things that we're figuring out mentally. I'm also excited to bring you guys some of the difficulties that we're working through because inside of business, inside of investing, it's not all smooth waters, and the current is not always in your favor. And so, especially in the beginning, there's a lot of having to figure out trials, errors. I'm sure you guys are going through that as well if you're following along, doing the steps with us. And so, I want to kind of give you guys an update about what's going on and some things that we're going to be doing. So, first off, we haven't made any sales yet. And I'm just a little bit disappointed that, being I think like 2 weeks in or so, we haven't had a single sale. Now we don't have all of our stuff uploaded yet. The rest of the stuff is going to get uploaded um, probably either this evening or tomorrow evening as we get time. Um, and so we're gonna get everything this week, though. Everything should be finished being uploaded. Last weekend we had a wedding, so we weren't able to obviously work it all last weekend. We're gonna get the stuff finished up and knocked out, and so that'll be good to have that done. But one thing that I've been thinking about that we didn't do. There's this concept called funnel hacking, and Russell Brunson is the one who taught me this. But basically, inside of funnel hacking, it's how do you find a competitor's website who does an awesome job converting sales, and how do you go through that sales funnel process step by step by step, and how can you mirror some of the attributes that they're doing. It's not in any way copying. You don't copy and paste text. You're not going to do it exactly the way you do it. You don't want to do the exact same colors and the exact same position and everything, but it's how can I get an idea for what's working, and how can I mirror that, how can I mimic that, how can I make mine look be similar but not an exact copy paste. And so one of the things I thought about is in some of the comps that we have, the comparable products, that the way that we priced our products based off of how other market products in the market were priced. How can we go to those and make sure that we have funnel hacked really their pictures, how we funnel hacked there, and so I guess you probably wouldn't call it funnel hacking. You I don't know, but how can we mirror their listing? How can we mirror, make sure we have similar type of photos? And I think we do. How can we make sure we have a similar type of listing? And I think it's similar, but maybe not spot on. So how can we do some things to improve? Look at some of the top sellers and look at what are they doing and how can we mirror that? There's also this quote by Dan Kennedy, and he says there's no strategic benefit to being the second cheapest in the marketplace, but there is for being the most expensive. And when I think about that, like I don't want to be the second cheapest. I don't, so it's either you got to make a choice between being the cheapest or being the most expensive. The great part about being the most expensive is you can have a big marketing budget and be able to afford it. Um, but to be honest with you, right now, especially, I'm leaning towards how can we be the cheapest in the marketplace? And the reason I say that is because when I shop on Amazon, I notice that the products with the real like tons and tons of reviews, 5 stars, great stuff. They're usually like kind of middle price. They're usually not like the most expensive. Um, because people aren't going to probably buy the most expensive. If you had to pick out of, two items that both had thousands of 5 star reviews, you're going to probably pick the cheaper one. But they're also not the cheapest. Usually I look at it and I see the cheapest product is typically the one that has the least amount of reviews. And but my assumption, my hypothesis with that is that if somebody's trying to come in and compete, for example, recently I was needing to buy windshield wiper blades and I bought them on Amazon because they were half prices going into the store. Um, I saw the different options and I noticed, and I think I ended up buying the cheapest one because it had still a couple hundred reviews, but the really good ones had like thousands of reviews. But it was noticeably cheaper, noticeably more cost effective. It was by a couple bucks. I think like the nice one was like $25 and this one was like $20. And I was like, man, well, $20, no brainer. Actually, I think it was like 19 or something. And so in my mind, I know it's a mental marketing game, but it was like below 20. They were in totally different price categories, and it's only a few bucks, but 19 versus 25 felt totally different in my brain. Um, and so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go with those. It had a decent amount of reviews, and so we went that direction. What I realized as I was thinking about that though with our eBay and our Etsy shop, and you're gonna probably face the same thing when you're starting, is we have no reviews. We've got no, positive reviews from people who have bought any of our stuff or anything like that. And so for me, I was realizing like, wow, well, So we took, somebody else had their plate priced at $15, and so we priced our plates at $15. And it's like we have similar products, but if I were a shopper looking at it, and I were to choose, like, well, Joe Bob over here has, you know, 100 5-star reviews, and over here, Cozy, I think it's Cozy Home Knickknacks. I should probably know that and have it memorized. Cozy Home Knickknacks has no reviews, and their stuff is priced the exact same. Well, I'm going to go with Joe Bob because there's trust there. And it just kind of dawned on me, like, I think we're making a mistake matching price. Um, and the thing is like, if you take something like real estate where there's no reviews on products and it's just like pure like land or houses, then you're just comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges. There's no reviews, there's no like extra value to be assessed. But inside of like the eBay Etsy world, you have the price of the product and you have reviews. And so there's that second value add. And so it's like, well, because we don't have the reviews, let's increase our value by lowering the price. And thinking about it, I was like, okay, we don't want to lower our price too far though, because number one, we don't want to kill our cash flow. Number two, we don't want it to look like we have a bad product. And so in my mind, I was thinking, like, what if we tried like 20% off? So like if they're listing their plates for $15, we'll list our plates for $12. And in my mind, it's like, okay, that's probably enough of a discount to catch somebody's eye. And even though we don't have any reviews, it's going to catch their eyes. They look at the pictures, they're going to notice there's no problems. We don't have any reviews, so it's not really a good sign or bad sign necessarily. We're just in the beginning, but there is a discount there. And so, and maybe, even as I'm saying this, it might be 20%, it might be 30%. I don't want to discount again so far that people think that there's a problem with our product. And I don't want to discount so far that we kill our cash flow, but we are buying these things with a considerable amount of equity built in, because of buying them at resale shops. And so we have the ability to be able to dial back our pricing. And the great thing about this that I want to tell you guys is, like, we're not looking, like, neither one of us right now, you nor I, at the beginning of this, when we're going from 0 to 1,000, are looking to make selling, items on Etsy or eBay our breadwinner. We're not quitting our jobs to go do this. That's why I'm doing it in the evenings. I'm really trying to do this as if it was like not my job. Um, and so how can we, really think about pricing in such a way to be able to build up a strategic advantage inside of the marketplace? So that's one of the mental things that, like, I've been going through. And we're probably going to discount our products. We're going to do some of that, product mimicking to make sure that ours are very similar in the way that we have our listing set up and things like that. And I'm not looking to like advertise our products, so I'm not looking to be the most expensive. I also don't really think, I could be wrong, I don't think this is really the kind of the realm that's applies to first and foremost. If somebody's shopping on eBay, for me at least, if I was shopping on eBay or Amazon, I'm probably gonna look for like one of the better deals, because everything's so accessible. It's not like people are having to hunt me out, with ads and stuff like that to gain a prospect. It's like I'm just going to Amazon looking for what I'm looking for, and there's just stuff everywhere. So how can we price ourselves strategically? I think that's gonna be one of the ways that's really gonna help us, to stand out. Now, if you're watching the Wealth Legacy Journey and the Double Dare Your Money at the same time, one of the things that I talked about was, there was two videos, a Dave Ramsey, Alex Ramosi interview, as well as an Alex Ramosi 2024 Millionaire Blueprint that he put out. And I wanted to talk about the Wealthy Legacy Journey, but I was like, I think this will really fit well in Double Dare Your Money, and I was running out of time for the episode, so I was like, I think I'm going to drop this over here. And so this has been some really healthy like mindset stuff for me as I'm ramping up and I'm going through. I hope this is a good place to fit it. But as we're just kind of making some mental shifts, I also want to put in some like forward thinking mindset stuff, for you here as well. So I'll drop a link, to both of the videos inside of the description, so that way you guys can go watch those. They're each like an hour long, but they're so just rich. But here's a couple of my highlights. So starting with the Dave Ramsey, Alex Ramosi interview. Um, there was a question Alex Ramosi asked at one point. He said, like, for how to diversify, how do you really personally like decide how you, diversify your own portfolio? Excuse me. And in that, I mean, like, if you have, let's just say $100,000 for round number, how do you pick which percentage goes to stocks, what percentage goes to real estate, what percentage goes to, maybe investing in startups or something like that, or just, how do you diversify capital? And they talked about how it's really, what is inside of your, sphere of influence. And Dave Ramsey specifically said, put your money into stuff you understand and you love. Don't put money into stuff because it sounds fancy or it sounds sophisticated. And he goes, if somebody's making it sound fancy or sophisticated, it's probably because they're trying to sell it. And I thought that's so good. It's like I'm not ever going to sit here and tell you like selling dishes is fancy or sophisticated, or selling things on eBay or Amazon. I don't care what you do to start. That's just what I'm doing. What I am trying to tell you is that these lessons that we're learning right now, I know are powerful. And I know that because I even hear of, some of these guys who are way more beyond where we're at right now, such as Alex Mosey, Dave Ramsey, Jim Collins, Robert Kiyosaki, all these guys are talking about similar things, similar ideas, similar principles, just on a whole nother level. So my goal in this is really just to bring it back down to our level, but it's the same concepts that apply throughout. And that's why learning how to do this on a small scale is going to be incredibly powerful for doing it in the long haul on the big scale, because it's the same concepts. You just level up the way you think about them, the way you process them, the way you apply them to the marketplace. So what specifically Dave Ramsey said, he's like, if 85% of your knowledge is in real estate and 15% of your knowledge is in stocks, well, then 85% of your money should probably be in real estate and 15% should probably be in stocks. So in her example, 85,000 should probably be in real estate because, if you had a really great understanding about real estate, and 15% should be in stocks to kind of hedge bets. But you have, much more limited understanding and knowledge there. So, be careful where you put all your eggs. Alex Ramosi specifically mentioned in this that like his main understanding wasn't in real estate or stocks. It was in taking businesses, small businesses, and being able to really get them to be more profitable and scaling businesses up. And so that's why he started his company, acquisitions.com, after he cashed out and sold one of his previous businesses. And to hear him talk about that was just really cool. And it made me even think about like, okay, well, what do I understand really well and what do I not understand as well? And that 85-15 is probably about how I feel about my knowledge inside of real estate and stocks. Like I have about 85% my knowledge and understanding is inside of real estate, 15% inside of stocks, almost 0% understanding on like how to start a business because I've tried it multiple times and I failed. Hopefully it goes differently this first time around with the Wealth Legacy Journey and Double Dare Your Money and stuff like that. And we figure out how to build something better for people. But I'm also coming at it from a whole nother angle of really not thinking about how do I sell a product, but how do I get people results? And then as I get people results, I know that, the sales will come. If I create value, money just will come from that. But yes, I mean, the whole goal with Double Dare Your Money is really to build confidence, to build understanding, to unleash powerful growth. And that's why we're starting small, is so we can grow big. We're starting with small amounts of money, concepts in a very small, confined way. So then, as our sphere of knowledge just increases and expands, and our capital pool increases and expands, all of a sudden, you're going to create this massive thing that just continues to grow and grow and grow. But the thing I want you guys to remember is you do have to start somewhere. So I wouldn't say put all your chips in. If you had $100,000, careful putting all your chips into something that you don't truly understand to a very large degree. And I would also say with that, if you only had $100,000, putting $100,000 into one deal, just be careful with it. You're putting all your chips in one basket. It's a way that you can really break yourself. To skip forward to another quote that Alex Ramosi said in the next video, and then we'll go back. I don't want to get too out of line here. He said that fortunes are created taking huge risks with small amounts of money, but fortunes are preserved by taking small risks with lots of money. So they're created with big risks, little money. Think Double Dare Your Money, right? We're learning something entirely new. We're doing it with a small amount of money, but they're preserved by taking small risks with lots of money. So then think as we build up that amount of capital that we have, as we double our money and Double Dare Your Money, we just continue doubling it. That capital pool gets bigger. The risks we take are smaller. But we also understand so much more of the game, so the risks become smaller because of that as well. One question Alex Ramosi asked I thought was really good. He asked Dave Ramsey, said, what advice would you give to your 40-year-old self if you could go back in time? And Dave Ramsey said, play incremental long ball. Don't look for the home run. And I took that to heart. When I was, even in talking with Nathan this past week, and just kind of getting counsel from him as a friend, really talking about like, one of the things that I struggle with in business is I want to know what's the $1 million opportunity that's going to just immediately launch me like a rocket ship to the next level. And, Nathan was really just encouraging me that it's like, dude, the way you find success is just base hit, base hit, base hit, base hit. And all of a sudden, as you're hitting base hits, every once in a while a home run comes along, and every once in a while a grand slam comes along. But really, what it's all about is the base hits, base hits, base hits. And I was like, man, that's so good. And it's basically what Dave Ramsey's saying here. It's like, how can we just keep hitting those base hits? How can we play long ball? How are we not, don't just think home run every time you step up to the plate. Number one, you're gonna be disappointed. And number two, if you're always swinging for the fences, like that's very risky and you're gonna end up losing it all. As I have twice, but I'm not gonna lose it this third time around. And you guys are gonna be in that journey with me. As you build yours up, maybe for the very first time, I'm gonna help you avoid the 2 times of pain of losing it. And how do we just play base hits? How do we play long ball? How can we build up something that's going to sustain, it's going to last? How do we preserve the wealth that we build and make it bigger and bigger and bigger? Alex Ramosi, he said a quote in that interview. He was like, inside of their group, they have a saying, I guess, is 100 golden BBs. There's no such thing as a silver bullet. And it's just basically don't look for a way to just like immediately hit that goal line. But just continue pinging away at it. Boom, 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 boom. Just consistency over time. Focus, 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 focus. And then a quote from Alex Ramosi, he talked about shiny object syndrome. He said, as soon as something starts to get hard, something new looks easy. And so they, being entrepreneurs, tend to jump from the hard things to the easy things. And he said, really, it's just this growth curve. And it was really interesting because he's talked about in this next video that we're talking about this growth curve of uninformed optimism. And then they get into the opportunity and it becomes informed pessimism as they realize, like, oh, the grass isn't necessarily greener as we thought. I heard this quote one time or read it once from Nicky Gumbel. And he said, the grass isn't necessarily greener on the other side of the fence. It's greener where you water the grass. And it's like, man, where you care for, where you nurture the grass, like that's where you're going to see life. That's where you're going to see fruit. That's where you're going to see growth. And so in our lives, as we're growing, as we're building this, as we're doing Double Dare Your Money, we've just got to pick a place. Where are we going to water our grass? And at first, it's going to be really small. We just keep watering it, watering it, watering it, nurturing it, taking care of it over time. Then all of a sudden, we're going to build something around momentum, and we just keep building it, building it, building it, building it, building it. So super good. The video link to that is in the description. I'm going to go to the second video now, the 2024 Millionaire Blueprint from Alex Mosey. Now I want to go back to just before that Dave Ramsey, Alex Mosey interview. That was not even close to all the value that was inside the video. Those were just some of my absolute highlights for where I'm at in my journey. You guys might not even be at the exact same place as I am in my journey, or if you are, you guys might have a totally different set of struggles than I have. My struggle is staying focused and disciplined and not, getting distracted with shiny object syndrome. There are some people out there who are very, very good at staying dedicated and disciplined to a task, but they struggle to take risk. So I would still say go watch that video because you might get some different types of value out of it than I'm going to get out of it. The Millionaire Blueprint, this one's also going to be in the description of the video. Alex Hormozy, he had these kind of like different steps. And so I'm going to kind of say the step and the stuff that's inside of it. In the beginning, he said, don't diversify. Focus on filling one cup with everything you have. And when he talked about the steps of growth and this kind of like curve that you have inside of new opportunities, and I kind of mentioned this on the previous one from a quote that he said, that you start with this uninformed optimism. Everything seems great. This is going to be like awesome new opportunity. You're super excited. You're super hyped. It's going to be great. Well, then you go up and up and up and you start realizing like, oh, this is going to be harder than I thought it was going to be. And you kind of enter into this like informed pessimism where you're like, oh, this is going to be a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Now that I'm getting all this information, like this isn't quite as simple as I thought it was going to be. This is going to be a lot of work. And then you dip into this valley of despair as things get harder and harder and harder, and you become more adverse, more difficult, more pushback, more things to fight through, and you're in this valley of despair. But he said the great part is if you can push through that valley of despair, you start entering into informed optimism, where you start to get excited about it again because you realize the potential. He specifically said something around the lines of like, you've wrapped your arms around the problem as you've really started to, understand what all has to, you understand the math, you understand the approach, you understand what has to happen. And then once you've hit that informed optimism, you end up hitting ultimate achievement at the end of that, curve. And I realized for me, one of the ways that I've really been struggling is that I've been living through steps 1 through 3 over and over and over again. And I would tell you, do not do what I did because it's so painful. But I jump into this new thing, it'd be so exciting. Then I realized it was a whole bunch of work. I'd go into this like valley of despair as I was trying to figure it out. I'd get it to start working. I'd hit some achievement, But then even in that achievement, I was like, man, this is still a grind. This is not fun. Like this is work. This is getting boring. I want a new challenge. So then I would start to jump into like another uninformed optimist. And that's why I went from like zero to, $100,000 multiple times. Cause I have this like growth curve of like, oh, this is really hard. I'm figuring, and then all of a sudden I start to figure it out. And then it'd be like, boom, I hit this money. And I'd be like, oh, finally I'm free. Like I have $100,000. Like I'm free. I can go do whatever I want. I'm going to go find something that's easier than this. Cause this is a freaking pain in the butt. And, I realized that, kind of transitioning to one of his next points, he said, you got to think about the long game. And he said, instead of, focusing on selling the thing with all the gas I can give it, focus on making the thing as amazing as possible. And so when somebody buys it, word of mouth starts to kick in, help building the flywheel momentum. And so I think about that with the wealthy legacy journey, but I could also think of ways to apply that within real estate. Is like instead of thinking like how can I give it as much gas as possible to them where I'm just like going to burn out, how can I build something that's consistent? How can I build something that's this consistent, repeatable pattern of how to do something that I can hire somebody to do, and they can do that over and over and over again. And then, instead of it being word of mouth sales that kick in, it's that helps build the flywheel momentum. It might be hiring an employee that does the same thing that I was doing, and maybe we're doing the same thing side by side, or I can now go do something else to work on another aspect of the building of the business, and we're working on building that momentum together. Um, he talked about finding a hungry crowd, which this is going to apply a lot more to like what we're doing here with the wealth legacy journey. But he said that finding a hungry market is more important than having a great offer. Having a great offer is more important than having great persuasion. But if you can find a hungry market and a great offer and a great persuasion, that you're going to absolutely crush it. This was good. He had this one kind of titled section that he called "One Avatar, One Product, One Channel." And he quote that he said in this section, he said, "The fastest way to get to 1 million is to build it right from the get go and not overcomplicate your business." And I know that that's got to be the truth. That's why in the wealthy legacy journey and in double dare your money and all this kind of stuff, we don't have an intro, we don't have an outro, we don't, like, at this point at least, we don't have an intro or an outro, or we don't have a website, we don't have any of that stuff, because it's like, okay, how can we just get traction? How can we keep things super super simple? So the wealthy legacy journey podcast, that's put on Spotify and on YouTube. And I think when I put on Spotify, it automatically goes to Amazon and Apple, but I honestly don't even check those. Um but then actually double dare your money, that only goes on YouTube. And I don't upload them anywhere else. Actually, I take that back. I have had to start putting stuff inside of the Google Drive because it automatically records to the cloud inside of Zoom. And I'm too cheap to want to pay for more storage inside of Zoom. So I'm taking the videos out, putting them in my Google Drive. Eventually I'll have to change because somewhere's going to run out of space. But I have kind of like a backup copy. And maybe it's redundant having it out there on YouTube, but neither here nor there. Um, my point in all that is don't overcomplicate what you're doing. What we're doing, with buying and selling dishes on Etsy and eBay, it's very simple. We're not overcomplicating it. We're buying, just a little bit of dishes with a large amount of equity. It's easy to find how much equity you have in the deal, and we're trying to get that process right. As you guys know, like with the edits that I talked about just a minute ago, we are going to have to ebb and flow. But the nice thing about it is we've got, I mean, what we bought for Double Dare Your Money, just that, I think we've got maybe like 15 products. No, we've got like, well, I think we've got like three or four different products, but then we've got like obviously multiple of the same kind of mug or something like that. So that's kind of why I break it up that way, but not much. So to edit those listings, to go back and change that, it's not going to be super complicated. If we had gone out and bought, like, we had now like 1,000, if we tried to go like 100 or 1,000 different listings, and we're just like boom, just like slamming it. We're having to figure out how to ship all this weird stuff, figure out how to price all this weird stuff, figure out how to edit the listing on all this different stuff. There's way too much. Keep it simple, keep it small, and build momentum. Another goal setting thing, and I thought this was actually really great, as he said, set input goals, not output goals. Because if you have the right kinds of input, you're going to produce the right kinds of output. And so put it down practically. Instead of saying, like, for me, oh, I want to make $100,000, $10,000 a month. How do I make $10,000 a month? And just focusing on how do I make 10,000 a month? How do I make 10,000 a month? How do I make 10,000 a month? And just like freaking out over that. He said instead, set the input goal. So for me, it's like, okay, I want to purchase $30,000 worth of book value for tax sales. And I want to find one land development deal per quarter. So that's actually my quarterly goals that I've set for myself as an employee of my own business, KL Cash Real Estate. And if you're unaware of the, kind of big change that's just happened for me inside of that, make sure you go watch the podcast episode that came out. It's actually the podcast episode when life throws curveballs. that's the episode where I talk about like what's going on with my job and stuff. Um, but I realized like I need to change my mindset to being an employee to the business instead of trying to always think about how do I get freedom from the business? How do I get freedom from work? I need to think about how can I use work to be as productive as possible, and just find something that I really enjoy doing. That's not always going to be sunshine and roses. Like it's still going to be work, but I'm going to be able to have exponential growth. It's going to be able to give me a huge amount of financial freedom to then just continue to do more and more and open up more and more freedoms in my life. But it's not going to be like an instantaneous overnight, like boom, I'm an entrepreneur, and then boom, I hit six figures, and then boom, like six, 7 figures, I'm free. I can retire for the rest of my life. Like most people aren't even really happy with that. It's a continual growth curve up, but you get to have more and more fun. Because I, from what I've heard from everybody, is as you get further and further along, you really get to pick. This is what I love to do, and then you get to hire out the stuff that it's like, that's not really quite so much of a passion. Um, but for other people, maybe it is. So he gave his format for goal setting. He said, state the problem, give a hypothesis, and then make sure that it's measurable. And so my problem is that I need to make $5,500 a month inside of KO Cash Real Estate as an employee to keep the lights on. So my hypothesis, I would call this like an if this then that kind of statement, is if I, and actually I wrote it first, if I buy at least $30,000 of book value per quarter, my cash in should be 10 to 15,000, making my cash out roughly $20,000 to $15,000 per quarter, which comes out pretty close to that $5,500 a month. I made it an edit here. I said if I own at least 30K of equity book value per quarter, and then everything the same. My cash value in should be 10 to 15, and my cash out should be roughly 20 to $15,000 per quarter. The reason I said own equity is because specifically whenever we start moving, kind of into the 10 to $100,000 goal, but especially as we're pushing 100 to a million, which is where I'm about to pass on my personal journey, not with Double Dare Your Money, but on my personal journey, breaking to that $100,000 threshold again, you really start looking at, bringing on equity partners to be able to expand your capital. Some people do the debt thing. I don't like the debt thing. But you could go the debt route, but using other people's money inside of joint ventures and equity partnerships and stuff like that, I really do enjoy that type of model. Um, and then, my hypothesis on the land is if I find at least one land deal per quarter, I should be able to make approximately $50,000 to $100,000 per land deal on my partnership split, my portion, within 3 to 4 quarters after acquisition. And so in my mind, it's like, okay, if I can just at least break even on the tax sales, and these are the minimums. If I can break even on the tax sales, where I'm really going to have like further exponential growth is going to be inside of the land development joint ventures, and those will be mainly joint ventures. I'll either be selling those, or I'll be what I'd really like to do is JV on those, and being a part, of that long term venture. So that for me is like long term. I have a long term gain, and then my short term gain is tax sales. So I keep lights on with the tax sales, but then have this huge further, future kind of growth with the land development. And then finally measuring is like, did I hit those targets? Those are very measurable goals. Did I bring in a land deal in the quarter? Was I a part of acquiring the equity of at least $30,000? My portion. So it was like 50-50 split. Then I could go out there and I could, let's say that somebody gave me 100% of the cash, but I did all the work and I found the deals and we split it 50-50. Well, then if I went and got $60,000, using their money of book value, and let's say that I bought it at like a third. So it's like we invested $20,000 of Jimbo's money, and then I have and so then we create um, well, if we had like we have $60,000 there of equity, buying at a third. Let's say we're splitting the profits 50-50, so 60 is what we make when we sell it. We bought it for 20. There's $40,000 there worth of profit. Jimbo gets half because it was his money. I get half because it was I was the one who brought the deals together. Well, then you have that 40 split in two ways. Jimbo gets 20, I get 20, so there's my 20K, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be my own money. But then here's the deal: is like if I get tapped out on how much funds I have, well, I can go to Jimbo and bring Jimbo in, and I can make money off of Jimbo's money, but it's not debt. It's a JV split. I'm going to make a lot less on his money than if it was debt, but I also don't carry that heavy, significant risk. Excuse me. Um, and but then at that point, looking forward is like you're going to start hitting a point where you're going to struggle to maybe get enough tax sales to be able to consume all of the money that you have available to you. And so then it's just really like this back and forth balance game. But that's a much better place to be as far as like trying to back and forth balance, like, okay, I need more money, I need more deals, I need more money, I need more deals, than being in the place where you're just sitting here like, I need $5,500 a month and I don't know what to do. And you're just like looking like a deer in the headlights, just like, what do I do? So that's why we're doing the double dare your money, is to like really create this roadmap so nobody has to look like a deer in the headlights, just like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. And instead, it's like, no, here's the very specific steps that you do. So make sure that, inside of your goal setting, you have a problem, you have a hypothesis, and you make sure that it's measurable. How do you solve this problem? Um, and then if you go through, you test the hypothesis doesn't work the way you think. Like if I go and I buy $30,000 of I have $30,000 of equity per quarter out of tax sales, and it's not getting me to that $5,500 a month. And it's like, okay, do I need to do more equity, or is it that the tax sales aren't selling and I need to shift vehicles out of tax sales? But I need to be able to give it time. Like, so then it's like there's my, I need to have my self-defined deadline. And that for me is probably about 6 months. I need to give it about 6 months and see what happens. And one of the last things that he mentioned in this was get rich once. He said fortunes are created taking huge risks, small amounts of money. That's how they're created. But fortunes are preserved by taking small risks, lots of money. And so he just said, be careful that you're not just swinging for the fence over and over and over as you're growing. And I know this doesn't necessarily apply to us right now with where we're at in our journey, but it's still kind of absorbing those lessons right now because I struggle with this. What got me to that $100,000 mark was taking big swings. And all of a sudden, it'd be like out of the park, grand slam. I'd make a whole bunch of money, and then I was like, okay, let me go look for my next grand slam. I just want this one even bigger. Like, what if I get 1 million grand slam or 500,000 grand slam? And I keep swinging for the fences as I was like losing money, losing money, losing money till I had nothing. And then I realized like, wow, what it took for me to get from 0 to 100,000 is going to be one thing. But the what it takes for me to go from 100,000 to 1 million is going to be a whole nother course of action. And so that's what we're going to. This is my first time to go from 0 to 100,000 to 1 million. I'm about to personally kind of make that shift from six figures, and jump into the 6 to 7 figure, the 100,000 to $1 million, mindset track, not inside of Double Dare Your Money, on the Wealthy Legacy journey. But that's just kind of where I'm thinking. And so there's a lot of stuff that's on my mind. But one thing, and this is kind of just to wrap up, is there's no finish line to this game. Like this is the game that we play all the way into the last of our days. And so make sure that you're playing a game in a way that you'd be excited about, that leaves a legacy, that you're building up some wealth, that you're not just swinging for the fence to lose your wealth, but you're building wealth, you're being continual, you're experiencing that compounding interest, but also playing the game in a way that you'd be proud of, and playing the game in a way that you feel like is long term sustainable. So I'm excited to play the game in a different way this time around. I'm going to be making those edits on the dishes for Double Dare Your Money, as far as because I really want to get that flywheel spinning for us. And we're gonna have some fun. Like once this thing starts to roll, everybody's gonna start to get excited. At this point, I've entered into that informed pessimism kind of, and it's not as hard because I don't like have to make money on Double Dare Your Money, but I am starting to hit this like, okay, I was really excited about this out of the gate. Now I'm like really starting to hit the heart of it. Um, and that starts to dip into that, valley of despair area, that Alex Mosey talks about. But it's like, I also realize the achievement that we can achieve out of this. And so it's just, we've got to figure out how do we connect from where we're at right now, boop, and get through that valley of despair all the way up to that level of achievement that we're looking for, get that flywheel churning. So anyways, just a little update on Double Dare Your Money, some of the changes we're going to make, and also some really cool mindset stuff that I hope that you got value from. I know I got a ton of value from it. Don't forget, the link will be in the description below, as well as I'll have the Google Sheet, like I mentioned on the podcast. I'll have the Google Sheet tagged down below, for all the resources that you might need, that are tied to the show and everything like that. So anyways, this is another episode of Double Dare Your Money, dedicated to you and your own personal wealthy legacy journey, your Double Dare Your Money journey. It was awesome hanging out with you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next update. Bye, y'all.